start with the Java mainly.
Okay.
So, yeah, can you explain me the OOPS concepts, the pillars of OOPS?
Yeah, sure. So OOPS concept mainly focuses on the four things. So first is abstraction, second one is encapsulation, third one is inheritance, and fourth one is uh, abstraction, encapsulation, inheritance. The fourth one is
Okay.
I don't remember exactly.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's start with the concepts that you have told me. Can you tell me how abstraction differs from encapsulation?
Yeah, sure. So basically, if we go by the by the definition of the abstraction, so basically it says hiding all the implementation and showing only the functionality within it. And encapsulation basically means bind out all the data within a one capsule, within a single capsule. So when we talked about the abstraction, so abstraction can be achieved by the abstract class, and encapsulation can be achieved by when you designing a class in that. When you actually design a class, so it basically is an encapsulated one. So basically, it captures it captures it having the behavior itself. When we talked about the behaviors, it basically talks about the methods which I'm using, and as well as the it has a member. So all those members, ideally it should be private, so that the other member do not so the other classes who are extending those things should not have the permission to change it over there. So yeah, this is pretty much it. An abstraction can be achieved by the abstract class as well as the interface.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. So how an abstract class is different from an interface?
So interfaces, like before before Java 8, in the 7, so interfaces only contains all the abstract method. It does not have any single default or any other method which is just not in abstract nature. And when we talked about the abstract class, so it not necessarily having all the method as abstract. It can have one or two method as abstract. So that's a basic difference between the abstract and the interface. Sorry.
Okay.
Mhm.
But given a situation that,
Uh-huh.
let's say you have to connect to the two databases,
Two databases,
so
okay.
you know that, yeah, so you know that there will be, you have to begin the transaction, you have to end the transaction, and you have to execute your queries. So
Okay.
it's just that you have to connect to two different database instances. So how will you model basically this contract for your class to implement the connection to the two database? Will you use the abstract class or an interface? So you can give the names, I mean, you can write simple design.
Hmm.
But yeah, and for beginning, can you tell me whether you will go with the abstract class or the interface?
Okay. So basically, if I reframe your question, so you're saying like you have two transactions managed. So you have two different databases, and you have two
Mhm.
different services. Is it so, or is this a one service you are talking about the two databases being connected to?
So yeah, we have two database instances, but
Okay.
yours application is the one
Okay.
which
Application
will
is one.
connect to both the databases. Yeah.
Okay. 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 So your question is like to have connections with the two databases. What methodology or what designing I should need to use? Is it like?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Mhm. I think it is better to use. I think it is better to use interfaces because if you implement in interfaces, so it has all the methods. Okay, okay, got it. But okay, after class also can define all those things. Okay. Um, okay. I think it is better to use the interfaces, because suppose if in interfaces you can define, like, you have those opening the connections and then closing the connections method over there. So all those things, all those mandatory steps you have in the interfaces. So definitely the class which is the services which, so for example, let's say class which is implemented all those interfaces should mandatory have to use those. But if suppose if we are using an abstract class, and once you when because why I'm saying the interface is because all the methods you have to mandatory implement. And so for example, you have one method which says, like, opening the connection, one says, like, doing the transaction, and one saying is like committing the transaction, all those things. And say second is, like, closing the transactions. And when you talked about the different instances of the two databases, so I think let's just assume that both of these two databases do not contain the redundant data. So if it is a streamlined process, so basically all those things, once the transaction has been completed in one of the process, then it will go to the second process. So I think in that case interface would be a handy one, because in abstract class, suppose if you extend those classes, but in those classes, if you do not have all those steps available. Suppose you have the connection, you opening the connection, but you are not closing up the connection, you have not have that method. So then the design, then there's a flaw in design, because once the transaction has been completed and it is not committed, for example, and it goes to the second one, so then there's a data inconsistency, I guess. So I think for the interfaces, I think interfaces will work better, assuming that all those mandatory steps we are writing in the interfaces, I think. But I am actually a bit confused over there. Like, suppose if it is there in the abstraction, also we maintain all those things order. uh, but then they are confused, because in that design, in the abstract class design, suppose if you have one of the methods which you wanted. Okay, I think interfaces will work. Yeah, correct, interfaces will work better.
Okay, okay, fine. Yeah. So okay. In Java, can one interface implement another interface or extend another interface?
Yeah, like one class can implement two or more interfaces.
Yeah, but one interface, can it extend another interface?
um no.
Okay, why do you think it won't be allowed?
uh, okay. I think classes, I think it will allow, because uh, in classes, I think it will allow, because in classes you cannot, because of the multiple inheritance. It you cannot, it should not allow it, because it considered like object is the primary object, and if you do all those things, like it violated those things. But when you talk about the object class, so interfaces, I think yes. Sorry about it. It can do that. It can do that. Yeah.
Okay, so one interface can implement another interface
Yeah.
or extend. Okay, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so I have given you the example in chat.
Okay. Give me a moment. Okay. Okay.
Okay, so yeah, so okay, so can you tell me first of all how many OOPS concepts are covered in this particular example?
Yeah, sure. I will do one thing. I will share my screen. Okay. And I will open my
Yes.
notepad. So that would be better, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this chat window is bit small, I think. And I'll just wait. I will do one thing. Yeah, that is better. Much better. Okay. Okay. Now I will give you here on it. No need to share the screen. Yeah. Okay. So okay. So inheritance definitely is there. Uh,
Hmm.
okay, and encapsulation is also there since you encapsulate it within a class. Okay, abstraction is not there. Mm, and polymorphism, polymorphism is also there. Yeah.
Okay, which polymorphism? Compile or runtime?
Other time.
Okay, okay. Um, so, so you see the method X is there in class A and class B, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, class B method is printing B
Mm-hmm.
and class A method is printing A.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
So, if I give you something like this, I'm typing, you'll see it in a minute.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So, in this case, AA is equal to new B and
Mm-hmm.
then A dot method X. So,
Mm-hmm.
here, what will be the output?
Soap B.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and now, if I want to print the A as well,
Mm-hmm.
then can you change a code a bit?
Yeah, sure. So in the method X, you can use the super keyword.
Okay,
Yeah.
that will help, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so okay, talking, we have almost covered the OOPS concept right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, can you tell me if you have worked on threading?
Yeah.
Okay, so how which framework you have implemented?
Executor.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so in that, can you tell me what are the ways of creating a thread?
Yeah, sure. There are mainly three ways through which we can create a thread. So we can use the thread class. We can use the implement the runnable interface, and there is also callable interface also.
Okay, what's
Mhm.
the difference between runnable and callable?
Yeah, the basic difference, for the runnable and callable, is in the runnable you have the run method, which have a syntax which do not return any any which do not have the return type. But when we talked about the uh, the similar method in the callable interface, so it have a return type. And runnable, it basically uses thread functionality to use it executions, whereas when we talked about the callable interface, so it basically depends upon the business logic which you try to acquire. So basically, suppose if you have those initial tasks and you wanted to acquire that particular thread pools to to execute on the designated path, so you can use the future object for that. So you can define out what set of tasks you need to perform once the execution of the currently executing logics has been done. And apart from that, mm, I don't recall exactly, but these are the ones.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. While working with the threads, did you experience any time that there was an exception thrown from a thread?
Yeah, when
Okay.
yeah. So when suppose there are many instances where you get the concurrent modification exception. So basically, it's try to figure out any two threads try to change while iterating through the element. So it is try to change the value of same value by the two threads. So in that condition, the concurrent modification exception came.
Okay. So how did you handle that exception?
So basically, there's a couple of way. First, you can use uh, you can use the different implementation of the data structure which you are using currently. So for example, if I'm using the hash map, so you can use the concurrent hash map or the collection.synchronous map for that matter. If it does they are not, you are not using that, so if you are iterating to the list, so rather than using the iterator, you can use the list iterator. So that is actually a fail safe one, not a fail fast as iterator is. And yeah, these are the way, and there are some other other what can say other classes which also comes in handy. For example, copy on write array is one of those classes which, yeah, you are saying something.
Which class?
Copy on write array.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Uh, I was not actually able to hear you in between. There was some noise in the background from my side actually.
Okay, okay. I
Okay.
thought like no one is there actually, that's why.
Yeah, no, no, from my side, so I did not hear. Okay.
Okay.
Right.
No issues. I will speak a bit louder. No issues. Yeah.
Okay, no.
Yeah.
Okay. So, so this way you told me about how you can use concurrent hash maps or list iterators, etc. Right? Um, but let's say runtime exception happens, like null pointer exception happens in a thread.
Okay.
Then, how do you handle such situations?
So basically, like before Java 8, you have to manually have to check for it, while you have to use the try catch block and all those things, to catch. But these are actually, the runtime exception. So sorry, runtime exception as well as the unchecked exception. It comes under those. So it is very much difficult. But Java 8 has this optional class which actually looks out for the value if it is all present in the in that segment. If it is not present, then it will return a false. So if it is present, it will return a true. So optional class in Java, it actually try to tackle out that null point exception.
Okay, I did not understand the option part. Can you explain me again?
So in Java 8, there's this optional class, and which
Okay.
they introduces to tackle out the null point exception. So basically, it has certain methods. For example, it has is present value is present. I don't exactly remember that particular method, but it has those method. It is started with is present. I don't exactly recall that because I have used that in my previous project to to tackle out if so. What is basically do if the value is if the value is pointed to the null, so it is written out as false. So you initially you get the value is false, so you can say, okay, if I get the value as false, so I will not try to do those operations. If I get the true
Oh,
value, then I try to use those operations.
okay, okay. So with that class, you will first check whether the field or method variable is null
Yeah.
by using whether it's returning true and false, and then
Yeah.
you will execute the operations.
Yeah, so
Okay,
basically,
okay.
yeah, so null point exception, there are two to three scenarios which comes when you talk about the null pointer. So for example, you create an object, and it is not pointed by any other memory location, so it is basically a null point exception. Suppose you have a reference of that particular object class, and both these object do not do pointing to a memory location, and that memory location is being used by another point. So in that case, the optional class has two different variations of the method. I don't recall exactly, but the optional class is the one through which we can do that.
Okay, you have used it earlier.
Yeah, in my previous project.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, fine. Okay, so okay, before that you were saying something with the try catch blocks, right?
But actually, I have
Okay.
not basically actually used, because these are the unchecked exception, and these are the exception which come under runtime. So I'm not pretty sure that whether we can catch it under the catch under the catch block. I'm not pretty much sure, because I have used the checked exception, like find not find exception and something like that. But for the
Mm-hmm.
unchecked exception, I have not used it. So in that case, I actually know I have no idea how to check out for. Sorry.
Okay, okay, okay. Okay. Are you aware of the exception hierarchy?
Yeah,
Okay.
mostly. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, do you tell me first?
Yeah. So basically, at the upper point, if I try to follow out, so there's an object class, then you have throwable, then you have exception, then you have bifurcation of it. So throwable comes up and exception, then there's error. In the exception, you have unchecked exception and the checked exception, and in the error you have different types of error, but there is no bifurcation of the errors. In the checked and the unchecked, in the unchecked there are some bifurcation, like you have the you have no, there's no bifurcation, I guess. I think there's a bifurcation. I don't recall exactly, but like suppose for example, array out of board detection, null point exception. These are the the unchecked exception. When we talked about the checked exception, so file not found exception, IO exceptions, no, which comes in the compile time. When we talked about the errors, so for example, when you say run out of memory, so that is an error. And suppose your system crashes out, so that is an error. And it all comes under the throwable class. I
Okay.
think that is the whole arcane.
Okay. Then null pointer exception, you are saying it's an unchecked exception, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So then if you catch throwable, will it be covered or not?
Okay. I think if we are extending the exception itself, it is covered. But the point is like I don't know how to, because there's this thing like suppose you are using source keyword within the class signature. Suppose you say public class, suppose for example Deepashri, and extend exceptions. So it basically what it does, you do not have to write the try catch below, because the class is already handling all those exceptions with the stack call actually. So basically, it
Mm-hmm.
looks out for that throwable, and in that throwable, it actually manages out internally. So that I th- yeah, that is it, I guess. Because actually, I actually forgot like what is the question exactly.
Okay. No, so I was actually asking you about if a runtime exception happens in a thread, then how will you handle it? Then you firstly told me the try catch and then the optional class that you had earlier used. So
Mm-hmm.
on that, yeah, so I just asked you, I just want to check with you that whether the runtime exception, let's say now null pointer exception happens, and if you catch it using throwable, will
Mm-hmm.
it be caught or not?
So throwable. uh, I think the only thing I know is like the class I had defined like Deepashri. So I think uh, when you say like like those exceptions. So I think null point exception will also will be handled by that.
Okay. Okay. So have in the try catch block, what have you caught till now? Just the compile time exceptions?
Yes, yes. Unfortunately, yes.
Oh, okay.
Because most
Okay.
of the time actually we have done this file operations and all those things. So inside that we only get all those things like file not found exception, and most of the time is the IO exception and the bifurcation of it. So, and actually whenever we see there might be some exceptions, so we actually define our own class and write the on method by extending the exception class. So these are the things we actually done. So not get a chance to to work out to for the runtime exception. I think that is a great question. I should write it. No, after interview I should write it.
Okay. Okay. While we are on the threads topic, I want to. Okay. Can you tell me what is the volatile keyword in Java?
Yeah, sure. So volatile keyword is basically used when you are volatile keyword.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, yeah. Sorry. So it is basically used in the context of the multi-threading, and it basically says like the value of the transient sorry volatile keyword uh, is not being can the multiple threads cannot change or cannot change those value. Suppose multiple threads are working on the same segment of the code, and every time when two threads.
Akash, I'm actually not able to hear you.
Okay. Hello, Deepashi. Hello. Hello. Hello, Deepashi.
Hello.
Yeah. Hello. Now you able to hear me?
Oh, yeah, I'm able to hear you.
Yeah, so what I'm seeing is like that volatile keyword is used in the context of the multi-threading environment, where
Hmm.
when when there is a collision between the two threads for the same resource. So in that case, the thread the transient variable value cannot cannot be changed. So basically, it has no effect if there's a multi-threading environment is going on.
Uh, okay. Volatile keyword is used in terms of threads that I understood, but I didn't understand the part why did you combine it with the transient?
No, I have not combined it with a transient.
Okay. Okay, then can you tell me why the volatile is used? What is its function?
Yeah, I said transient. Yeah, I'm so sorry about that. So volatile is basically it does not change out the value when there is a two thread working out for the same code base. The
Okay.
value remains the same throughout the multi-threading environment.